What's going on, guys? It's me, Zach, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. And this one, I'm going to go over one player at each position that I think you guys should be starting, that I think a lot of you guys aren't, and then one player at each position again that I think that a lot of you guys are probably trying to start this week, and that I don't think you should. So the idea on each of these players is it's players that they're sort of borderline and players that you are sort of on the fence about. I know a lot of people will do starts of the week and give you sort of advice on players that are obviously already ranked inside the top 10 at the position, stuff like that, and it's pretty obvious that you're going to play them. So trying to help you guys out with some pretty common start sit questions. Obviously, if I don't mention any of the players that you have on your rosters here, you're more than welcome to ask me for your specific start questions in the comments. Love interacting with you guys. Love to help you guys out as much as possible. Um, these videos are really fun for me to do. I like keeping track of how I've done so far. So far, we've been doing pretty well. Um, Last week, I had Deonta Foreman as my running back start of the week, so that one did really well. Did have Wan'Dale Robinson as a receiver start of the week, so that one didn't work out. But pretty hit or miss, but I think a lot of these end up working out pretty well for us so far. We can keep track of that going forward. But yeah, if this is your first time on the channel, I do want to thank you so much for stopping by. If you do get anything out of the video, please do give me a like. It really helps the algorithm, helps me know I'm doing a good job. And feel free to subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it if you do. And you can click the notification bell so you get notifications when I put new videos out. I do 3 videos every week. This is one of them. And I do the waiver wire video and that trade video. So yeah, with that, let's get into the first player. So my quarterback start of the week this week is going to be Justin Fields. Believe it or not, he's got the second most points at the quarterback position in fantasy over the last 4 weeks. That's not a completely accurate stat because some players have not played 4 games over the last month. But regardless, he's had a really great last month. He's finally getting to run the ball quite a bit. They're designing run plays for him. This offense looks a little bit better, and he faces a pretty beatable Dolphins secondary this week. We've seen the Dolphins honestly struggle to really defend many teams so far. They got down early to the Lions last week, and it's certainly, I mean, if the Lions can move the ball well on them, they've also struggled against several other teams so far this season. So the Dolphins are a beatable defense, and not only that, the Bears' offense should get a little bit better this week with Chase Claypool. I doubt he'll be super involved, but it does give them one more weapon to use here, and it does make that Bears' offense just a little bit better. And on top of that, the Dolphins are going to be able to put up a lot of points against this Bears defense. This Bears defense is only going to be worse, having just lost Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith. So there's no reason to believe that this Bears defense is going to stop the Dolphins' offense. So the Bears are going to be chasing points. Justin Fields has been honestly really effective. We've seen them get themselves in a shootout just last week. They lost 29-49 to the Cowboys. So I think that could be the sort of game we see again this week, and that'd be really awesome for Justin Fields in fantasy. He'd be a guy that you got to play a quarterback on bye, or one of these guys that we're not super confident in, like Stafford or Brady. I'd love to start Justin Fields over those guys. So my running back start of the week this week is going to be Kenyan Drake. He's actually looked really good so far this season when he's gotten the ball in his hands, which isn't exactly something I thought I'd be saying about Kenyan Drake this season, but he's looked honestly really good. He's clearly the pass catching back in this offense, although that's not necessarily an extremely valuable role. But in a game where we're going to see no Rashad Bateman and a probably limited Mark Andrews or no Mark Andrews at all, it's going to be really important for this Ravens offense to lean on their run game. And when they do throw the ball, they're going to have to get different players involved. Kenyan Drake should see a few targets. I think he's got a good shot to score in this one as well. I've got one league that I'm starting him in, and I'm pretty confident that I'm going to get, 60, 70 total scrimmage yards here, a couple catches, and a shot at a touchdown. So that's something that I think, especially in a week with 6 teams on bye, I think it's certainly a week that Kenyon Drake could really fill in for you guys as a nice running back, too. This is a Saints defense that can be beat on the ground. We just saw 2 weeks ago they gave up plenty of yards to Keontae Ingram and Eno Benjamin. I know last week they slowed the Raiders down, but I'm not super sold on that being a changing of events for the Saints defense. They're certainly beatable, and even if they don't get necessarily beat on the ground in terms of yardage, I think Kenyon Drake's going to get enough volume. He should catch a couple balls, and he's got a decent shot to score in this one. So Kenyon Drake, to me, is going to be a mid to low end RB2 this week, and I think that a lot of you guys could use him. So if he's on your waiver wire, go at him now. I don't think he's not exactly very highly owned, and Gus Edwards hasn't been declared out yet, so go add him before he is. So my wide receiver start of the week this week is going to be Joshua Palmer. To me, he's just a must start this week. We have no Keenan Allen or Mike Williams in this game, and DeAndre Carter popped up on the injury report Friday dealing with an illness. So Joshua Palmer is going to be like the only healthy receiver for this Chargers offense coming off of a bye, and they're playing a very beatable Falcons defense. So, the number one wide receiver for a Justin Herbert-led offense against a mediocre to bad defense is someone that I think is just going to be a smash play for all of you guys. He's obviously going to be well rested himself. He missed 2 weeks ago, and they just had their bye. So Joshua Palmer is going to be fresh. He's going to be their number one guy. And the Falcons' defense is not great, and their Falcons' offense has shown an ability to really put up a decent amount of points so far lately. So I think it's reasonable to assume that this Falcons' offense is going to keep up with the Chargers a little bit. Chargers are going to have to keep the pedal to the metal and really probably run up the score here. I think you could see a 30-30 kind of game in this one. So I think Josh Palmer is in line to really be a high-end wide receiver 2 this week. And I think that I'd start him over a lot of guys that maybe you've been started regularly. But I think Joshua Palmer, he's going to be a must start. If he's on your waiver wire, go at him. If you have him, if you're not starting Joshua Palmer this week, then why are you even rostering him? So you got to play Josh Palmer this week. He's going to be awesome. This week, my tight end tight end start of the week is going to be Isaiah Likely. He broke out last week, catching 6 passes for 77 yards and a touchdown after Mark Andrews left the game early with a shoulder injury. This week, at best, Mark Andrews will be limited, and I honestly wouldn't be shocked at all if Mark Andrews misses this game. They're going to have their bye next week, so it makes a lot of sense for the Ravens to rest up their guys like Andrews and Gus Edwards in this one. And on top of that, they're not going to have Rashad Bateman at all. Bateman's going to be out for the rest of the year, so the Ravens are going to look to involve Isaiah Likely in their offense. He's one of their better weapons. It makes a lot of sense for them to use him as much as possible. And honestly, he's a guy that they might just want to get involved in the offense even more. I know it's not very often that tight ends or 2 tight ends on the same team can be fantasy relevant, but I think this is a potential opportunity for that. So I think Isaiah Likely, not only this week, but he could have value going forward beyond that. Regardless, I think this week's going to be a great play for him. He's probably going to operate as their number 1 tight end, even if Mark Andrews is out there. I think Andrews would be more of a decoy than anything. So I mean, honestly, if you just look at Isaiah Likely, he's basically a wide receiver playing the tight end position as well. He's a really talented player. He gets open. He's going to be a threat to score touchdowns as well. So Isaiah Likely to me is a guy that's definitely a top 10 tight end for me this week. And I still think I'd be more than comfortable playing him even if Andrews shoots up. So my quarterback sit of the week this week is going to be Tom Brady. I have him ranked outside of my top 15 at the position. He only has 1 game so far this season with multiple passing touchdowns. And given that he offers you no rushing baseline, you basically need that out of him for him to be a fantasy start for you. And they've had a really poor offensive line play, and that coupled with going up against Aaron Donald and the Rams defense is just certainly not something that I'm excited about. We know Tom Brady struggles the most when he faces interior pressure, so Aaron Donald's going to give him just a world of hell this week. I don't think that this Bucs offense is really capable of running the ball either. They're going to have a hard time moving the ball up and down the field. Jalen Ramsey should be able to hold down Mike Evans pretty well. And there's just a lot of really great streaming options this week. I've already touched on Justin Fields, but I'd be more than comfortable starting Trevor Lawrence against the Raiders. Kirk Cousins is a great streamer. I think you could play Derek Carr this week as well. So all those guys are guys that I'd much rather play than Tom Brady. So I'd be really shocked to see him finish inside the top 10 this week unless he manages to find himself 2 or 3 touchdowns. But I don't think that's going to happen just because I think this is going to be a really low-scoring game between 2 offenses that have really struggled and 2 defenses that are sort of the only reason that these teams are remotely close to competitive so far this season. So my running back sit of the week this week is going to be Devin Singletary. The Bills are going to dominate the Jets in this game, and we've seen so far this season that Devin Singletary gets far fewer touches in games where the Bills lead easily. So I think that's something that we're going to expect to see here. Devin Singletary tends to find himself not be very involved in the second half of games because they just don't need him, and I think that's something that could happen very well this week. In addition to that, Nyheim Hines should come in and steal some of that passing down work as well. And James Cook's been getting more involved as well so far this season, or over the last few weeks. So we're really seeing Devin Singletary's stranglehold on touches in this offense sort of slipping away. And I would say you need a touchdown for him to pay off this week, but Josh Allen steals all the touchdowns. I think Josh Allen has like 23 of the 25 Bills touchdowns so far this season. So I don't really like the odds of Singletary finding himself in the end zone this week. So I just think you're going to have a really hard time getting a respectable score out of him this week. I think a lot of the passing game work's going to go to James Cook and Nyheim Hines. Maybe a couple passes will get caught by Singletary, but it's not going to be enough to give you a very safe floor. And I don't like his odds at a touchdown as well. I think his touches are going to be down as well this week. So I'd be looking for better options than Singletary this week. I have Kenyan Drake ranked ahead of him. I have Deonta Foreman obviously ranked ahead of him. So there are players that you could have gotten on waivers this week that I'd be playing over Singletary. Moving on to wide receiver, JUJU Smith-Schuster is going to be my wide receiver sit of the week this week. I think that even though he's coming off of 2 really great performances before their bye, I think that they're not exactly representative of him playing much better. I think that it's just a matter of him getting lucky with touchdowns. He had a couple broken plays that he scored on. So I don't really think that JUJU has honestly played that great this season. I think the stats make it look like he's been a lot better than he has been. And this Chiefs offense just added Kadarius Toney, so it's going to make an even already spread out offense even more spread out. There's going to be a lot of targets involved in this game. And the Chiefs, I mean, the Titans, they tend to get beat more on the deep ball than the underneath ball. They're one of the best teams in terms of giving up yards after the catch. So JUJU Smith-Schuster's not the guy in this offense that takes one off the top. That's going to be an MVS or a Hardman thing. So I think one of those two is more likely to be the receiver that ends up putting up a big game in this one. I think they're going to manufacture some touches for Toney that could limit some upside for JUJU here. think I do have Juju ranked inside my top 36 at the position. So in deeper leagues, I think you're obviously starting him, but consensus ranking is wide receiver 21, and I don't see him as a wide receiver 2 this week. I think there's certainly really high chance that he just busts this week. They play the Titans, and I won't be shocked at all if the Chiefs just dominate in this one and sort of just ease off the gas. They are 12-point home favorites, so I'd be shocked to see this be a very competitive game, and I think that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to need a touchdown to be fantasy relevant this week, and I just don't really know how likely that is, given that obviously Travis Kelce is going to get his. They've been using multiple running backs as well. There's 4 receivers that are involved in this offense. It's hard to predict which of these receivers are going to perform. I think Juju's performance lately has been relatively fluky, and adding another wide receiver into the mix here makes that even murkier. So I'd be looking to fade Juju this week, and honestly, he'd probably be a sell high for me as well if you can move him. And lastly, my tight end set of the week is going to be TJ Hockenson. It's because it's his first game with a new team. It's very rare that a player in his first game with a new team ends up being awesome. Just see Christian McCaffrey 2 weeks ago. He ended up only getting like 10 touches in his first game with San Francisco. It's just really hard for a player to come in and learn a whole offense in a week. The tight end position is generally one of those with the largest learning curve as well. That's why we don't see rookie tight ends often dominate in the NFL. So I'd be really shocked to see him just blow up in this first week for the Vikings. The Vikings also likely won't need much out of him this week. They play Washington, and Washington's very beatable by the wide receivers. So I think Osborne, Thielen, and Jefferson obviously are going to have really capable games. Dalvin Cook's going to do a great job on the ground. So I don't think they're going to need TJ Hockenson in this one to win the game. And again, I think there are a decent number of streaming options in the waiver wire that I just like more than Hockenson this week. Gerald Everett would be my favorite, but he's probably not available. But guys like Evan Ingram, Robert Tonyan, and even Isaiah Likely, I have them all ranked ahead of TJ Hockenson this week, and I just ideally like to be sitting TJ Hockenson if you can. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter @RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.